Let's talk about young men specifically. From your gentleman's perspective, where are men really struggling? What do you think is the biggest problem out there for young men in America today?
Purpose.
Not have a lack of purpose?
Men have been systematically socially engineered to be denied purpose. Men, we're innate problem solvers. And when I always refer back to, and it wasn't actually Jordan Peterson who coined this phrase, I just found that out, but it's like the Lost Boys generation or the dropout generation is what it was before that even. And it's the guys, it's a generation of guys who are anywhere between like say 18 and 29, somewhere around there. And they are absolutely rudderless in life. That's why these shows are so popular. That's why Andrew is so popular. That's why I'm popular. That's why you're popular, because these guys are looking for the dad they never had. That's why Jordan Peterson was such a sensation, at least for about 18 months there, from 2018 to wherever he is now. The point being is that there are sheep looking for a shepherd right now because they either were denied a positive masculine role in their life, or else they've been condemned. I ask this question all the time: where do men go to become educated today? Because we constantly tell them, don't go to college, you're going to waste your time, you don't want to take out those loans, you don't want to be at a disadvantage, you don't need college, you don't need education, you don't need to go to university, you'll end up a communist, or you'll end up with blue hair and your lady, you'll end up underarm hair, you look like Lena Dunham coming out of college. Right. So we discourage that education, and probably rightly so, because again, it's another institution that used to be something that was had some value to it. I have 2 degrees. I felt like I got some education out of that. I was able to write these books as a result of being well educated on a lot of variety of things. And if I didn't know something, I can go and find out. Right. But what we're telling guys right now is don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't go to school, don't do that. And then people are like, okay, well, what do I do? And so that's why you get a Jordan Peterson who's so seductive to say, hey, well, come to my shows and here's what I'm going to tell you some, very profound, things. But they leave the auditorium and they still are purposeless and they still don't know what they're going to do. That's why you have incels. That's why you have, that's why we have the Lost Boys generation right now, is because men are natural problem solvers, but we have no problems to solve. All the frontiers have been explored right now, and that's the number one question I get, and I'm sure everybody else. You can monetize this.
I know you
because
don't
they don't know what to do.
I know you don't want to give the prescription. You've been very vocal about that, but I'm gonna ask you, where should men find purpose these days?
Well, I'll tell you where they are finding it. They're finding it online right now, and
that's where they're finding it. But what should they do about it?
It depends on the individual. I would have to know what their particular talents are. Where are they in the world? That's another reason why I don't presume to give prescriptions. I am a 54-year-old white male living in the United States right now. I would not presume to tell the 18-year-old kid in Mumbai, here's the secret to success, kid in Mumbai. I'm not going to do that, and I would question anybody who has a template that says they can do that.
I actually respect that you're saying I don't have all the answers. I respect that.
I have the tools for you to go figure it out on your own to build a life, but I'm not going to tell you how to go and construct that.
Respect.
In fact, I want to see your work. I want to see what you build with these tools.
I think, and that's where we go back to that initial question: who do you want to be? Whether you're the 54-year-old white guy in America or the 18-year-old kid in Mumbai, who do you want to be? If you can answer that question, you can somehow find your purpose. Can I ask you the exact same question? Where do you see as the biggest problem with young men in America today, or even in the world?
Yeah, I think identity. I think there's a demonization to be masculine.
Absolutely.
I think there's an isolation happening because of the internet, and in a weird way it connects people, but it isolates them even more.
It's an extroversion that it's an introversion that everyone thinks is an extrovert.
Yeah, and I think that
you can see everything in the world, but you can just be in your home in your basement.
You have so many access to so many people and so many different opinions and so much different information, and so it's could be tough to know you're up from your down. And I think if I'm a man today, and I was around, my high school, the internet was starting to take off, and then it was like MySpace, early college years. And so these things were starting to populate, but I think there's different challenges. And so I think you're so inundated with so much information that you don't really know what to do.
Sensory overload.
Yeah, sensory overload. You don't really know what to do. And then when you don't know what to do, you just end up doing nothing. You just end up playing video games.
Right. That's what they say. If you're salespeople out there, you can have option A or option B or option C, or if this, you can choose this. It's like give people 2 options or 3 options. They'll make a decision.
By the way,
give people 10 options.
That's what let's have a complaint, but my main complaint when we start talking about what is a high value man, right? Like guys want to get from point A to point B, right? Well, when you see an Andrew Tate and he's living the lifestyle he is, and not just him, there could be just like lower limit bush league guys who are kind of like him. guys like young men look up to that and they see what he's living, the lifestyle he's living. But for most of those guys, they can't relate with being draped over a Lamborghini. They can't relate with being on a super yacht in the Sea of Oman.
Let them dream, Rollo. Let them dream.
But their dreams are
get crushed.
well, that's why I keep telling. That's been my purpose or my point is to when I'm talking about the race, it has to be for the everyman. It has to be for the same guy who is in Miami as the same guy who's on a tractor in Oklahoma in the Midwest somewhere. It has to be relatable to all men. That's why I get really pissed off when we talk about the black manosphere, the Latin manosphere, the Asian manosphere, the white manosphere. No, we're all men, and we all have the same. We're all in the same boat right here. And if we're not, we will be soon. So that's why I keep saying we need to make it relatable for everyone.
Finish your thought. But he said purpose. You said
identity and purpose.
Identity. Okay.
And so if I go back to where I was at high school, my father wasn't in my life. My mother was divorced, abandoned more or less. My father was the one that was hypergamous in terms of marrying someone that was younger than him or more attractive than my mom. And we're all good now. But I didn't have a ton of direction. I didn't have a ton of guidance. I didn't have a ton of purpose. And so if I'm reverse engineering, I'm giving people the prescription for what worked for me. As someone that is in the West, of able-bodied and sound mind, I don't have any physical ailments, I don't have any mental disabilities, and I've been able to come from the bottom objective poverty to doing fairly well for myself. And so the prescriptions, I think Rollo's saying he wants to go as wide as possible. I'm saying, hey, if you're in these sorts of situations, here are the things I would be focusing on late teens to early 20s. I wouldn't be spinning plates. I wouldn't be doing all this, all trying to chase tail and all these different things at the club. I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff. I would be working on, hey, what scarce skills do you have? How is your network? Who do you know? Do they know you? Do you add value to them? What are your soft skills? And do you want to build a life with somebody? Because you're way more likely to be stable emotionally in a marriage when done right. And I think there's a lot of being done wrong, but I think when done right, it could be the biggest catapult. And so for me and my wife, I was 23, she was 21. You were a little older when you got married. You were in your
28.
30s. 28, yeah. So I was 23, she was 21. I had 3 sexual partners. She had none. Okay. So, woohoo for me, married a virgin. And we were able to start bottom of the barrel and build an amazing lives for ourselves, because of some of these basic concepts like delaying gratification, like living on less than what you make, like not spending any time playing video games. I had to do a hard cutoff with video games, right? Like, because it was common, like Xbox was starting to take off. Everybody's playing online. No video games for me,
sedation.
man. Of course. Yeah, sedation. And so there were specific things that I needed to do that tip the scales in my favor and continue to tip the scales in my favor. And I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody. That's fair. But it can work for most men who are of able-bodied, sound mind in the West, make these sorts of decisions. Sauce, you could talk about money all day, man.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Thank you for teeing it up right there. I'd say this all the time, whether it's video games, whether it's Netflix, whether it's fantasy football, you have 2 choices with your time, your most precious commodity, other than your health. Health is number 1. Is that you can either invest your time or you can spend your time. Take your pick. These days, all I do is invest my time. I'm not saying that sometimes I won't spend a little time doing whatever, but for the most part, I'm looking at time as a commodity. And
it's your most precious commodity.
Exactly, other than health.
And the older you get, the more precious it becomes.
Like you talked about the other day. Listen, I'm in my mid-50s now. I'm trying to, time is what I'm working on right now. But if you can invest your time wisely, there's only success at the other side of that rainbow. So if you like that clip, click right here to watch another. Or if you want to watch the entire Saucecast, click right here.